Oh, we are the boys in chorus. We hope you like our show. We know you're rooting for us, but now we have to go.
Greetings, Gherkins, Gherkettes, and of course, Gherkaholics. Before we get started with today's romp into the wilderness, I just wanted to say that some of you have been asking about my IMX hat. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that Chris Corner of IMX gave me this hat. See a cat peeking out back here. I always get the wrong finger. I shouldn't even be on the air. There she is. You'll see her back there. Yeah, Chris gave me the cat. But anyway, follow my finger. Good finger. There we go. That'll keep you amused. And cat videos, we know, get a lot of views. Where was I? Oh, yeah, the hat. So there's a rumor that Chris Corner of IMX had given me this hat as a gift, and that rumor is indeed true. In the fact that I went to see IMX play, and before the show, I went up to the merch table. There was a young lady there, and I gave her about $20, and then she gave me this hat. So as you can see, it's a gift from Chris Corner, who I don't know, by the way. Never met him, but as you can tell, big fan of his music. All right, so this is where we're going today. A couple years back, I was hanging out with my buddy Rob Wimfelder. You might know him from the incredible band Live Not on Evil. He fronts that band, great Philadelphia band. We've been buddies forever. We're like brothers. And Rob and I will sometimes have the same idea. And independently, we came up with this idea. We've been thinking about how alt-rock or indie rock or whatever you want to call it, it's like the dominant music now in this city, probably maybe in yours too. How it sounded like 70s soft rock. It's terrible. And we came up with the idea of taking a Seals and Crofts album and then just changing the cover. It would be vinyl, of course. Otherwise, nobody's going to listen to this thing when we send it. The idea was to change the cover and change the title and send it to a couple alt-rock stations and maybe some alt-rock publications and then watch them rave about it. And we thought that was a pretty good idea. And that whole thing popped back into my head this week, or a couple of weeks ago. I think it's been a couple of weeks now since we all found out about this. They had the AI band, the Velvet Sundown, appeared. And everybody's like, oh, my God, this band is AI. I can't believe it. If you know anything about them, it's an AI band that racked up over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. I don't have Spotify, and I will never have Spotify. I'm not a fan of Spotify. One of the saddest things is if you're in a band and you're trying to get your other band members to get your music off Spotify, and they come up with a really good argument, which is, but money. So I'm not a fan of Spotify. I just know that this AI band had over 1 million listens on Spotify. It's also kind of fun because right now a bunch of radio stations are they apparently played them. Alt Rock Radio was playing them as well. And now they're trying to go back and scrub the playlist like it's the Epstein files. It's like, what playlist? I had the playlist on my desk. No, wait, there was never a playlist. Okay, there is a playlist, but the Velvet Sundown aren't on our playlist. Okay, if the Velvet Sundown are on our playlist, Obama put them there. It is so much fun. It's like when they all found out that Lana Del Rey was fake, and it was like they were trying to hide a turd behind their backs, going like, what? Smell? I don't smell anything. So, and what they should probably do with the Velvet Sundown is what they did with Lana Del Rey. When it came out that Lana Del Rey's father managed a whole music company or whatever, and they tried her under several personalities before and names, they all came out and said, fake is good. Fake is cool. And I'm like, no, it isn't. Isn't every artist in the music industry fake? People would say to me, like, you can't tell me you are at the way you are at home the same way you are on stage. I'm like, yes, I am. And a lot of other people I know, performers, yes, we're the same at home as we are on stage. So, yeah, and also if you come up and talk to me, I'm pretty friendly, so just keep that in mind. People are always surprised to find out I'm friendly, and I always point out that I got beat up every day in school, so if you want to be my friend, yeah, sure, we'll become blood brothers. I think that's how Rob and I bonded. If you also, I know I'm going off into a couple different areas here, but if you want to see something really, really interesting, or not really, but when Lana Del Rey tanked on Saturday Night Live, the next week they had this sketch on Weekend Update where they had Kristen Wiig come out and pretend to be Lana Del Rey, and I don't think she wrote this. I think this was written by somebody who had invested in Lana Del Rey, because she comes out and, like, they're basically yelling at the audience for not liking Lana Del Rey, for not becoming enraptured with her. And she's like, oh, well, you know, making fun of me because I have an awkward personality. Like, that wasn't Lana Del Rey's default personality. This was like the third or fourth personality and name that they had tried. She's like, oh, yeah, and I changed my name, like Johnny Rotten. I'm like, it's not the same thing. No, it is not. So if you can find that sketch, it's got like a really creepy vibe to it. I have a lot of music conspiracy theories rolling around my head. Where was I going with all this? Yeah, a bunch of other YouTube music types, reviewers, talking heads, thoughtful people, they all jumped in on the whole Velvet Sundown thing. I really enjoyed, one I enjoyed was Wings of Pegasus. You know, the guy who tells you whether or not somebody was lip syncing in concert. I love that dude. He looks like he was transported from the 70s right into our world. He didn't even talk about the music of the Velvet Sundown. He just said, who didn't realize that this was AI? I guess it's like when you see somebody's grandmother looking at a picture of a pony that can fit in the palm of their hand. Oh, look at this picture. There's a pony that's real. And no, Grandma, that's not real. It's real because it's on the phone. That he was basically saying maybe there was a bunch of like people in their like 80s, and by 80s I mean like 800s, 80s with an extra zero tacked on, looking at these pictures, because as he pointed out, first of all, if you saw their eyes, they were dead, soulless eyes. And I thought, well, that makes me think that they might be involved in indie rock. I know a lot of people in indie rock with dead, soulless eyes. So that kind of leaned me that way. And then what he did was he pointed out that the bass player had like one giant finger, like a fused finger. Like these were all, like, imagine these two put together and on a bass. And I thought, well, I work with a lot of people in sideshows. Just worked with a sideshow the other week. So, yeah, that's a possibility. I know lots of people with, don't have a regular type hand that are really good musicians. And then the nail in the coffin, or the coffin in the nail, horse before the coffin and cart before the nail, was that he pointed out that none of the instruments had the brand names of the instruments on them. So you would see a guitar, and up on the headstock it was just plain. And I thought right there, I knew they were not an alt-rock band, because no alt-rock band ever passes up a chance for some sort of endorsement deal. So I'm like, okay, that right there. Although what he should have done was opened up Wikipedia and just looked up their names and see if their parents' names showed up in blue. Now, another fun video came from Rick Beato. Rick Beato had gone on and created first of all, if you ever see Rick Beato, Rick Beato is this wonderfully grouchy guy. It's like, I hate this music. I hate everything. Don't come to my studio. I'll break your ankles. You gotta love him for that. But Rick Beato had created an AI alt-rocker by the name of Elliot Mercer, and it was perfect. It spot on. Well done in that instance, Rick. But I noticed that when most of these people were talking about the whole Velvet Sundown thing, they were basically saying, well, this is just a way to put artists on Spotify and not pay them, or this is just a way to create music and crank it out there and just have the revenue come flooding in. You can do it in a half an hour. And I thought, yeah, that is part of the problem. And another, and this just hit me right now. I just realized that I'm willing to bet a lot of the people that you saw criticizing the Velvet Sundown, if they'd never seen the picture of that dead-eyed, three-fingered bass player with no instrument name on his headstock, if they'd never seen the pictures, they would have probably liked the music. Because I noticed a lot of these people that were listening to, or were talking about them, I'd seen them praise bands that sounded like the Velvet Sundown. It's like, it's just good, solid, acoustic guitar-driven rock. I'm like, it sucks. So that was there, and that kind of led me to what the real problem is. I think everybody is burying the lead here. I don't think the problem is AI so much. I mean, AI, it is a problem. We could do a whole thing of that. I think part of that problem is indie rock. And you can call it indie rock or alt rock. I like to call it Apple Store rock. because it's music people listen to when they're waiting in line at the Apple store. It's just not anything that you're ever going to directly engage with. It's never going to make you angry. It's never going to make you sad. It's just, good music to wait in line with. And that, alt rock, indie rock, Apple Store rock, whatever you want to call it, that is what the Velvet Sundown, the AI that created the Velvet Sundown, was trained on. That's what it had been listening to. That's why the lyrics for the Velvet Sundown suck. Because the lyrics to so much, we'll call it Apple Store rock. We're settling on Apple Store rock. The lyrics to so much Apple Store rock out there, practically all of it, just sucks. These bands have absolutely nothing to say. I'm going to give you an example of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up right now, there's going to be example A and example B. All right? One of these is AI-generated Velvet Sundown-ish music, lyrics, and the other one, lyrics from an actual Apple Store rock band, okay? All right, take a look at them. Think hard on this, Gherkins. Look back and forth. Take your time. There's no hurry here. I'm going to have a little sip of orange juice. Okay? All right, lock in your vote now. All right, you ready for the big reveal? They're actually both from indie rock bands. Yes, both those terrible sets of lyrics are from indie rock bands. And it shouldn't be hard to write good lyrics. I'm going to put up right now, these are my favorite lyrics from my favorite Ramones song. Okay? See? And you'll note that this song tackles economic inequality. And that's something that you couldn't do with AI-generated Apple Store rock, because there's nothing for it to pull from where these bands have been talking about economic inequality. That's one of the ways. If you ever see a song that tackles economic inequality, probably not AI. Where were we with all of this? Yeah, you could do this with Apple Store rock, like I say, because it's easy to create and imitate. You couldn't so much do it with rap, particularly when it comes to lyrics. The rap community is great at pointing out what they call corny lyrics. There is no way in hell that an AI could have come up with Not Like Us. And I know everybody says Not Like Us is a rap song, R&B song. I claim it's the best punk rock song of the last 20 years. I think we should, punk rock community, let us claim Not Like Us as one of our tracks. You can't get AI to recreate a band like Patriarchy or a band like Actors, Cyanotic. AI is not going to be able to create that because it's just not in its wheelhouse. You could feed it all that, it might get close, but I'm willing to bet we could tell the difference. And that is where the whole majority of commenters have kind of lost their way on this. Now, I often wonder, like, how, and I could do, maybe I'll do a whole video series in the future at some point. How did we get here? How did we get to the point where you can create AI music? And if you hadn't had the messed up pictures, people would have maybe not caught on. And there's a whole lot to that. You have, in the 90s, grunge dies along with Kurt Cobain, and you get pop. And that's why AI might be appealing to a lot of companies also. You're not going to have an artist sort of go off the reservation. Might be kind of racist. So if it is, sorry about that. You're not going to have them go off on their own, go rogue, and just start, saying and doing things that might bother you. And that's also been a problem with alt-rock bands. But with other bands, they might start saying, pro-liberation stuff, and some of the alt-rock bands turned out to have some interesting reading material in their libraries. So that's it. You have the whole commodify your dissent thing where eventually capitalism takes everything that's underground and makes it overground. The hippies being turned into, I'd like to give the world a Coke, that sort of thing. Or in the case of Jim Jones, I'd like to buy the world some Flavor Aid. So just saying, also the rise of poptimism. Poptimism in 2014, I think it was, a guy by the name of Carl Wilson, who wrote for Slate, he wrote a book called Let's Talk About Love. And Slate was great for news reporting, but every time they would put up any sort of music story, you just wanted to avoid that. But Carl Wilson basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm boiling it down. His thesis is, okay, well, a band like One Direction, they're just as artistically valid as a band like Coil. No, they're not. No, and you shouldn't think they are. I remember seeing Carl Wilson once say that, it's okay to have the musical taste of an 11-year-old girl. We don't do this shit for art or movies. We don't say that Adam Sandler, or let's take Paul Blart Mall Cop. Paul Blart Mall Cop is not Citizen Kane, and we don't try to equate the two. We don't do, we don't do it with art. The guy who's the painter of light, he's not. He's not Picasso, and maybe, I don't know if he died knowing that or not, but if you want to get on a Ouija board and let him know, that's just fine. And also, I think One Direction didn't pretend to be something they weren't. Pop music doesn't pretend to be something. It doesn't pretend to be deep, and that's where I'm going here. You can love Apple Store rock. You can love all the bands that I don't care for, all the bands out there with the bad lyrics and just middling sort of, 70s soft rock style songs. You can love that. I don't care. But don't delude yourself. Don't pretend that you're partaking in some underground revolution. This is so... I bet you've never heard... Yeah, everybody's heard of those bands. Everybody from the barista to your great aunt who's looking at the tiny little horse on her phone and go, "Ooh, tiny horses now." I'm going to bet you somewhere there's an alt rock band coming out with an album called "Ooh, Tiny Horses Now." It's just bad. There used to be concept of selling out. Remember selling out? Selling out was a thing that happened back when I was a musician or a young musician, and you would say, "No, I'm not." That concept is gone. People say, "I'm not going to play there. Those people are terrible. They don't support our scene." Now, nope, they'll play there. I remember there's a guy I like a lot. I won't give his name. He's a super nice guy, but I remember seeing an article, an interview with him, and he was justifying selling one of his songs to a big corporation. And he was saying, "Well, I got a family now, and I'm not here to judge anybody. What you do to get money, I don't want to judge it too much, but I just remember there are a lot of people like this." So I'm thinking, so we all have to give up our integrity because you don't like the way condoms feel? I don't have a family because I knew I was going to be an underground musician. I wouldn't be able to afford kids, and I would want to continue to play crappy little clubs. And here's another thing, kids. If you're a person who wants to keep your integrity, and you see us playing some club we shouldn't play, by us I mean the Dead Milkmen, and somebody says to you, "Well, look, the Dead Milkmen play there," don't listen to your inner voice. And if it's not somewhere you want to play, do not play there. I need more folks out there need to listen to your inner voice. That integrity, if once it's sold, it takes a hell of a long time to get back. Still trying to get mine back because I agreed to some things I probably shouldn't have. So just saying, if I'm in your corner. If you have to sleep on my sofa, I guess it's my fault. So you'll have to be there. And we've got I understand why Apple Store rock is so popular with Live Nation. Let's say I try. I don't ever want to play a Live Nation venue. And I don't think, again, Live Nation, I don't think you should have your music on Spotify. I don't think you should play Live Nation. But the thing is that I know a lot of people, I guess, have to, or that's all they have. And when I say that's all they have in town, Live Nation owns, and some towns owns 90% of the venues. But I can understand why Live Nation would rather have some, band, some Apple Store rock band in there instead of me. Because I'm going to get drunk and try to flush billiard balls down your toilet. I'm a walking fire hazard. I'm going to come through there with a blowtorch, or I'm going to... Yeah, it's just... I can kind of understand that, and I think that's why a lot of this stuff is floated to the top. That's got to be part of the thinking behind it. You see all these weird thought pieces I've been seeing for years about the death of the hipster. The hipster has gone away. No, hipster became mainstream. All that hipsterish music, which, I mean, I don't really know if it was underground anyway, because as we point out, a lot of these people are the children of industry people, and you never actually see these bands play anywhere. There'd be no history. They would just kind of appear out of nowhere, and then they're on some late night, playing on some late night talk show. They play on Saturday Night Live, and you can't get rid of them. They're like bed bugs. You can fumigate, but you'll never get rid of these people. Oh, and another reason to hate AI. AI is bad for the environment. Right now, there are whole towns in Texas being totally polluted by Elon's AI farm, so it can run Grok. And we all know Grok is I get the feeling Grok is really, really into Apple Store Rock. Just judging from where that nexus of the two. So, all right, I've talked too much. I will be back hopefully next week, and I will be back to another episode of They Should Have Been Bigger. So in this episode, we're going to go back to the super early 80s, bordering right there on the 70s. Bordering, the cat left, I think. If anybody watched this and you want to put in the timestamp where the cat disappeared, unless she's still lurking back there. Hang on a minute. Hey, Lenore, are you still back there? Yeah, she's back there, but she's not coming out. All right, so next week it'll be another They Should Have Been Bigger, and hopefully it'll be a band you like, and then we're going to start, we'll go from there, we'll move forward into the 80s, and we'll move up, and once we get into the well, it's not the mid-2020s now. It'll be like 2050. Once we get in the early 2020s, we'll start moving backwards, and then that'll be the pattern for They Should Have Been Bigger. All right, so I'm glad you stuck with me on this. I hope it made some sense. And if you're angry about the state of music right now, that's good. That's good. Go out and find something that doesn't fall into this, I'm a mellow kind of guy. I'm in line at the Apple Store.